Good morning. This is the Calexit Congress weekly meeting, Sunday at 11, every Sunday at 11, the Calexit Congress. We will start at 11 a.m. We are starting now the stream just so everybody can make sure to not have any technical issues. We will be starting at 11 a.m. What's up?
Good morning, my brother.
Good morning, brother. How you doing? We're just streaming, hasn't started. I got your review of the Pacific Summit loaded in the agenda. I will call on you after the intro. And if you want to cover the highlights, I also have it and I can pull it up on email too. For people to read.
Yeah, I had figured one for time's sake, because two, I can be a bit long-winded. I figured giving you the fine points, if you can kind of go over that, and then I'll just like loosely just like, yeah, and it was interesting to see him, I'll talk about, what I told you about, like, where was this Gavin Newsom the last year and a half or so?
If you want, it's your activism. I don't want to take your kill, as we like to say around here. So you put it together.
Yeah, but going over like how he had pointed out, and I put it in the notes of like, the budget surplus, and there had been all this question about, is there really a surplus? Well, this is the governor saying, yes, there is just about 80 billion, and it doesn't include the federal money.
Right.
So like, we actually got a very clear answer to that. Like, that's, normally we don't get such clarity of answer on such.
That's a good point. That is a good point. You normally don't have politicians go, I'll answer the question. And I'll give you a real life what you're looking for. Yeah, good point, Jason. That's accurate. Yeah. You almost never do that anymore. They're allowed
to find anything budgetary for any state, let alone California. Like, you got to dig for those numbers. You got to be a really good ferret.
I viewed it as a great activism project. So, yes, California went to this high-level summit, watched, analyzed, and now we're informing the public. That's a service to the community. So, and this was all you. I let you know about the summit, but you went, you watched, you interpreted, you made the notes. So high level activism, I view it as a completely successful project and the kind of thing that's super high level that Yes California does. I mean, who else is doing that in the secessionist movement? Right? Going to the highest level government policy conferences and breaking it down for the lay public. Because the lay public isn't going to go to the conference, will never know about it, and won't understand it if they saw it. So
yeah, well, and you know that brings up a really good point of I'd like to give another very public thank you to Misters Jim and Rufus.
Okay.
For making it happen that I could actually attend.
Jim Wonderman and Rufus, somebody. Shout out in the notes.
Yeah. Shoot. I could look up what his name was real quick.
If you want, you got 10 minutes. Otherwise, I do have it in the notes, and I will make sure that we cover it. We're going to get started in about 10 minutes at the Yes California Calexit Congress. Sorry, my favorite coffee shop opened up. I was actually able to go inside. And if you are well, I was a gym rat. I lost it. I guess I'm a yoga walking rat now. But I still never lost my coffee shop rat. And it was nice. I got to go to our Berkeley here in the Central Valley called, I think I told you about the Tower District. That is our Berkeley. We love it. It is our, slice of Venice Beach, Austin, Texas, here in the Central Valley. And it's very gay friendly and very socialist friendly and very come as you are, be who you want. And so I hang out there all the time, but they shut it down for COVID. So you're a coffee dude who likes that bohemian culture. It was rough, man. I had to go without for a year. So good day for me today so far. We'll see how the rest.
Coffee for a year.
Well, I mean, you could have coffee, but the whole
the experience.
Yeah, like you're in the Bay Area, you that classic before COVID when you go to the coffee shop and there's intellectuals and random people and maybe some homeless people, but you have these really incredible conversations. And
like when I was working on Natasha Atlas's remix album, sitting in Starbucks, literally open to close, like 5 days a week. Yeah, it's how I met my hairdresser, actually.
That's what I'm talking about. Those random conversations that just happen. Some of the most insightful people I met were, just people living on the streets, but they had seen things and done things and been around, and they were there when this event happened. And, you just take the time to talk to them, and it's a wealth of information. But a third of what I know has come from coffee talk. Just this goes quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a really, really interesting series of conversations with a guy from New York who moved here to California Bay Area and like pretty smart cookie, really. Knew all about genotype, phenotype, what the difference is, what they mean, right? Knew all sorts of complex biological sciences and used to maintain, probably still does, I haven't seen him since COVID, but he used to always maintain that every human being's secret, subconscious reason for anything is reproductive fitness. Yeah, right? That was pretty much I was like, well, yeah.
I wouldn't say he's wrong.
Yeah, right? Like we had like philosophical debate on, is there a point in time ever where humans might not be subconsciously thinking reproductive fitness? And the conclusion we came to is maybe once in a great while there might be an exception, but other than that, no, pretty much everyone is a horn dog secretly.
Well,
Which
my
is
mom.
okay because we're human.
That's why there are humans, right? My
Yeah.
mom used to say. If boys weren't horn dogs, there wouldn't be 5 billion people on the planet. I'm sure you could
And
dress it up
and
nicer, but
and if no girl ever liked any boy and no boy ever liked
right,
any girl.
right, right. And if girls weren't flattered by boys reading poetry and chasing after them, yeah, boys weren't horn dogs. Yeah.
Hey, you can't forget that loot action when you're like sitting outside their trellis window, playing. You read the Latin poetry first, and then you play the lute, and sing a
Yeah.
song.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. So let me make a note. Okay.
A note on whether Juliet prefers daisies to roses.
No, we're going to have a one-on-one recall debate at 12, and I need to remind a few people about that.
Okay. I'm sorry. I
No,
had
no,
a
no.
very late
It's a
night.
good.
I'm
It
a
was
little
funny. It was
loopy.
funny. That was a funny thing. Um,
It was almost a dad joke.
one second. One second. Sorry. Okay. I had to knock that out. Make sure all the candidates were aware of the debate at 12, the one-on-one debate. Then we have a return of the recall debate at 1 o'clock with a new candidate joining us, David Bramante of the David Bramante Show. Yet another progressive person joining the recall debate, despite what the media says. So we're looking forward to that. We're going to have a special July 4th themed recall debate for any candidate that is registered at 1 p.m. Additionally, we'll have a one-on-one debate between Frank Wade and Fuji Shiora on the topics of cryptocurrency and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict at 12. We'll share the information for anybody who'd like to join. And we're going to start in 3 minutes with the Calexit Congress. By the way, they proved that animals can sense the magnetic lines of the Earth this week or last month. So big breakthrough if you're a big science nerd. They had hypothesized that birds and other animals could sense the magnetism of the Earth, and that's how they used it to geolocate themselves as they travel, but they could never prove that. And last week they were able to take a bird's retina and feed in some sort of magnetic symbols into it, which activated the cones in its eye or something, proving that these birds were able to actually sense magnetism of the Earth. And it's in a tiny little bird that travels a gigantic distance. And they go, well, this is how it's able to know where to go. It's a sixth sense, one that we don't have. There you go, science news.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. Because like it's always been accepted pretty much that, like, of course there's some sort of invisible force that, being perceived by them that we can't pick up on. And it was like always accepted. And now having actual proof, it's like the Higgs boson, you know. When Higgs first proposed it, someone was like, "Wait, you mean a God particle?" And he's like, "Hey, you said it, not me." And then years and years and years, decades later, right, they find the Higgs boson. Yes, it is a real particle. It does exist.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
little proofs like that can open doors in the scientific world.
We're going to start in a few moments here. Thank you all for being with us on July 4th. I know it's a holiday. We always meet no matter what. Lots of people show up some meetings. Only a few people show up at other meetings. That's fine. As we said, life comes first in activism, but we also keep things going and never stop. So we're going to have a show. There might be fewer people. And here we go. It's 11 o'clock. Let's get started. Welcome to the Yes California Calexit Congress, the weekly discussion amongst the 1/3 of Californians who back the idea that it's okay for California to consider becoming a nation, as shown by Reuters Ipsos February 2017 and Stanford University February at the same time. Well, we're having another weekly meeting. We're starting at 11. These are our normal weekly meetings. Normally they're 2 hours. We've been making them 1 hour because we're having a series of debates with candidates for the election coming up. But let's get into why we're here. So one of the questions is, why are people in California having a conversation about if California needs to become a nation? Our goal, as developed by the Congress, people from you here, Californians, developed mission statements for Calexit Congress. And basically they are to keep the conversation going of what happens if America doesn't work out and California has to go it alone, to whatever extent. Now, some people find that a bold conversation, but we continually show it's relevant. And as we say here in Yes California, if a ship is sinking and the water comes up to your chest and somebody walks up to you and says, "Can we start talking about a life raft or insurance?" and you go, "Wow, that's a dumb idea." Who's really being dumb? It's okay to talk about building a life raft. It's okay to talk about having an insurance plan. It's okay to think ahead. And especially if the symptoms and signs are there, that you may need those things, it's especially important. So what we like to do is highlight to the public things that the news and most people are not talking about, but show this is perhaps the most rational conversation everyone in California should have. So let's get right to it. Feed the comments in. Good morning. Sibis Yad, good morning. Everybody post comments. Well, a few months ago, we at Yes California predicted that Joe Biden would be just like Donald Trump. That was a radical statement to make at the time. People didn't see it. Donald Trump was horrible and against everything wrong with California values. Joe Biden said that he was the return to decency and normalcy and represented the true soul of America. We at Yes California said, well, let's watch. Trump was everything Californians can't stand. Is Biden going to be the repudiation of all those Trump policies? Or will he actually keep many of them intact? If he does, then as Californians, we can say that, well, actually the Trump policies were the normal American policies. If Trump does policies and they're so horrible, and then Biden continues those policies and is the true soul of America, then we can say that those policies, while started under Trump, are actually real American policies that most Americans support and do represent the soul of America and do represent what Americans find to be decent and are completely out of line with California values. We said that months ago. People said, Joe Biden just got started. You're being too harsh. Trump made a big mess. He's going to reform. Well, it's 6 months later, and guess what? Nobody's talking like that anymore, and everyone's talking like us. So let's take a look. This is from the Women's March. Now, as a activist organization, we get emails from fellow activists across California all the time. Well, the Women's March, yes, the famous Women's March that did the gigantic protest in Los Angeles and in Washington, D.C. that got attention-grabbing headlines repudiating Donald Trump. That Women's March. We don't like Trump. We're marching against Trump. Largest collection of women protesting him. Well, on June 30th, this is what they said. The Biden-Harris administration promised to do just that, campaigning on the pledge to end conversion therapy in the United States once and for all. But what they're talking about is LGBTQ conversion therapy, where psychologists attempt to convince LGBTQIA people that something's wrong with them, they're a bad person, and they need to fundamentally rethink their sexual preferences, or whatever the right way to say that. It's a horrible, disgusting process that we have banned in California. Unfortunately, the Biden administration, along with Kamala Harris, a Californian, refuses to ban the same process, although they promise to do so. So this is the Women's March, super liberal lefty organization, June 30th, saying, hey, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, you said conversion therapy is bad and we're going to get rid of it. You're not doing that, and you're backing away on your pledge, which is anti-LGBTQ, which is anti-CA values. We said months ago, Biden, shade of Trump. That was actually invented by Jason Wright. Thank you. And now here's a group not connected to us, super liberal across California, saying, whoa, Joe Biden, you promised one thing and you're doing the exact same thing Trump did. Exhibit 2, June 30th, the exact same day. Bernie Sanders voters liked Bernie Sanders, but when he lost, many of them felt that the system was too troubled to work with, and they formed what they call the People's Party. It's basically all the Bernie Sanders voters wanting to make their own political party. Well, on June 30th, the same day, they said Biden ran on a $15 minimum wage, canceling $10,000 in student debt, paid sick leave, a public option for healthcare, and more, and he's abandoned all of those promises. It continues. Instead, he made Trump tax cuts largely permanent, worked to finish the border wall, and kept refugee children in cages. Those are the top people connected to the Bernie Sanders movement saying, wow, Joe Biden's continuing so many policies of Donald Trump, it's disgusting. They made that on the same day as the Women's March, completely independent from them, said the same thing about the Joe Biden administration with Kamala Harris continuing Trump policies. But it doesn't end. Kyle Kalinske is not a Republican. He's a almost socialist, social democrat is what he calls himself, super lefty. Well, on June 17th, maybe 17 days before the Women's March and the Bernie Sanders people, he said, Joe Biden allows for pipelines to Russia, which is a benefit to Russia, and he removed the weapon sales to Ukraine, which is a benefit to Russia. And yet when Trump did those things, he was pro-Russian. These are Trump policies. You're giving an oil pipeline to Russia and you're removing weapons to Ukraine. That aids Russia. Those are two things that aid Russia. Biden did both of those things, not Trump. And so Kyle Kalinske, who's a liberal, is going, wow, that's kind of what we said Trump did, and here you are doing this, Biden? So those are three liberal sources pointing out what Yes California said 3 months ago. Joe Biden, another shade of Donald Trump. People criticized us for saying that. We were right. Now other liberals are saying the exact same thing, and we said it months before they did. Like proving when we called it right early on. But here's the other thing. Besides the fact that America, the decent America, is not a country that shares your values, California, as you can see here. Give me 1 second. About to have a power. Nope, that's working. Okay. Let me show you a few more other things, if I may. So this week, the Joe Biden administration decided that they were not going to try to get tapes on Donald Trump that would prove if he lied in the Mueller probe. This is something Californians and liberals wanted. They were not sure if Donald Trump lied during the Mueller probe. They had been trying for years to be able to get the original tapes, and the Joe Biden Justice Department said, nah, we're going to close the whole thing, and you don't really need to see those tapes, and we're just going to let Trump get off with this. So that happened. That's the Joe Biden Justice Department. I'll show you the quotes here in a second. The just unsuccessfully, on Friday, the High Court vacated the earlier rulings. The Justice Department under Joe Biden wanted this result, saying the case had become moot. The House did not oppose the department's move. So that is the liberal House of Congress saying, yeah, go ahead and close this case on Trump that might prove he's a liar. And the Justice Department under Joe Biden saying, yeah, go ahead and close this case on Trump that Californians want and think he lied about. We're not going to give it to him, and we're going to drop the prosecution on Trump. That's Joe Biden this week. Now, Joe Biden is also president of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. Turns out people in California who had everything burned down a year ago still are not receiving funds from FEMA under Joe Biden. So FEMA under Biden is not helping Californians get the money they need. I'll show you a quote in a second. So that is two agencies. Here's the Justice Department under Joe Biden, not pursuing justice that Californians want. Here's the Emergency Management Agency under Joe Biden, not providing services for Californians. Both of these things came out recently. So we have Joe Biden acting like Donald Trump and federal agencies under Joe Biden not providing the services that Californians want. Now, the other reason that we're here is that we think America's fallen apart and that it would be better for Californians to get out. On top of the fact that you've already seen that Californians do not get our fair amount of everything we deserve. So Henry Winkler, AKA the Fonz, wrote out a tweet recently saying, only a cataclysmic event can bring the United States together. He was universally laughed at. People said, hey, we just had COVID. It didn't bring people together. We just had the Iraq war. It didn't bring people together. So he goes, wow, we're so divided as a country. Only a cataclysmic event can make us depend upon each other and bring us back together. And he was universally laughed at by thousands of Americans saying, we're so divided, we're never coming together. And, you know, we had 9/11, we had COVID, none of this worked. So here's a guy famous saying, America needs to come together. And he's laughed at by Americans saying that's never going to happen. That's what we said. America's so divided, it can't come back together. Now here's another person proving it. We also said that, again, America is not working out. It's falling apart. Well, the same week, I'm embarrassed to be an American. Shocking campus video from Georgetown University. So Georgetown University is one of the top schools that trains politicians and other people who will work in the federal government in Washington, D.C. It's right next to D.C. So they went to this university that produces politicians and produces federal office workers and asked these students, what do you think about America? And they struggled to say, I'm proud to be an American for July 4th. So the top university that trains people to work in the federal government has students saying, I'm not really proud to be an American. Finally, I know it's not too much, but this is June 30th. This is recent. Here's a pro-Trump MAGA person saying, Calexit, let's get rid of California for the good of America. So let me post up some of the quotes. Friday, the High Court vacated earlier rulings. The Justice Department under Joe Biden wanted the results, so that's the Justice Department failing California. Here's the quote about the FEMA agency failing California, in addition to these other liberals saying that the Joe Biden administration is failing California values and appears to be just like Donald Trump. Everything we've been saying. America's not coming together. Americans don't think it is. Joe Biden represents the real America, and they do not share your values, California. and the federal government does not provide fair services for you that you pay for. All of that proven again, fresh in recent days. Everything we've been saying since 2014. Proven again this week. Maybe it's because we're right. Let me check the comments. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Keep those comments going. Okay, let me make sure we covered everything. All right, let me show you some other good stuff. And the rabbi's here, so I'm going to call on him to please talk about this. So 1 second. 1 second, give me a second here. Okay. I'm sorry, 1 minute. Rabbi, if I could call on you, I'm going to show the video. If you would like to, you don't have to, introduce what we're all looking at here. So this is
and they can somehow partner up at any level. And Mark can speak with us as well. Mark is really executive, he is the president of Calexit. What is absolutely wonderful about this is these are the two largest secession movements in the country. As far as I know, history on two totally opposite sides of the spectrum. And if they can somehow partner up at any level and work each other practically or anything else, I think we've got a shot. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to.
Let me put the screen. Whoops. Sorry. Rabbi, could I call on you to talk a little bit about the event that happened?
What can I say? I worked on it for 6 months. It pretty much worked out. Daniel Miller came with his executive director, Nate Smith. They met a gazillion people. They had a blast. We were able to bring Marcus in on Zoom, which was an absolute technological miracle, considering we barely had any Wi-Fi anywhere. And I think it was received very well by the crowd. I definitely think it was historic in the meeting of the two largest secessionist movements. I introduced it more as peaceful separation movements. NH Exit was there. NH Exit spoke a little bit. Honestly, I think we're a little more serious than NH Exit is as far as being in the direction of something happening. And my hope and my efforts are now into seeing how to keep this relationship going and keeping the two movements working together. So that's my short piece.
It's a Calexit Congress member, one of our American fans. We love having connections to people across the USA. We want to secede, but we want to be partners and friends. And the rabbi was instrumental, along with Liberty Block and Elliot Axelman, in bringing the two largest independence movements in America together. They had never met before. So the largest liberal secession group and the largest conservative group met for the first time ever. That's never happened before. It happened for the first time, and it was because of Liberty Block exclusively. And if you watch the video, which I'll post up in private chat, you can see Daniel Miller, the president of the Texas Nationalist Movement, and Marcus Ruiz-Evans, president of the Yes California Calexit Movement, largely agreeing. Unity's not happening. Americans aren't coming together. We were promised everything is going to be fine. It's not. Things are getting worse. And the Texas Nationalist Movement also believes that the chance of reforming the federal government is exceptionally, why even bother? It's unlikely. And that you're more likely to get a vote for or allowance for secession than reforming the federal government, which is what we've said. They've also said things are getting worse, which is what we've said. And they've also said, hey, secession is the only way to cool things down so people don't get shot or hurt, which is what we said. So literally, if you watch the video, I'll post it up in private chat, you can see the presidents of the two largest secession movements agreeing America's not coming together. Things are getting bad. Time to have peaceful divorce for peace. And we do not share political opinions, and we have not ever met before. So that's Yes California making historic moves. Let me post the link in chat to everybody.
I just want to add two things real quick. NH Exit is the libertarian movement, which was awesome to have the three sides of the triangle there. And also, if I remember correctly, everybody should watch the whole video. I don't believe any opposition was expressed by anyone in the room to California leaving the United States. Is that your recollection, Marcus?
I'm going to try to cue that up, but yes, in the video, the rabbi asks everybody, hey, can I just ask you all real quick? And this is a live audience. Is anybody bothered if California leaves? And you're like, no. So you can hear like 2/3 of this live audience saying, yeah, California, if you want to go ahead and go. It was beautiful to see that because
Marcus, they said it with a little more enthusiasm than you are garnering right now.
Let me see if I can find that part. I think it was towards the end.
Of course, you're not at the end of a week-long party. So,
it's in the video. It's in the video. I don't want to like take forever to find it, but it's in the video. If you look at the video, it's in there where the rabbi goes, okay, so who would be opposed to California seceding? And they're like, yeah. So I also did an interview with a Utah-based radio station last week. And 2/3 of the callers who are from, middle America also said we're fine with California going. So here's a New Hampshire group of libertarians. Hey, we're fine if California goes. A week later, I'm talking to a Utah radio station who has people piped in from Mississippi to West Virginia, and 2/3 of those radio callers also say, go ahead and let California go. These two events are days apart of each other, and they both recently happened. So again, not a scientific evaluation, but what does that say? A radio show based out of Utah talking to random Americans, and they say, go ahead and go. And then here's an event based with random Americans, and they say, go ahead and go. And both those things happen within days of each other and recently.
If I may, it kind of sounds like we're starting to get some of the consent of the states, so to speak. We've always maintained that, we don't want it to be some hardcore, take our bags and go. It should be a amicable, peaceful, resolution rather than just a, permanent solution to the problem. And here we are with some of the more prominent parts of the East Coast saying, yeah, fine, you want to, go for it. Some of them even saying, hey, we don't want you here anyway. It's pretty big because a lot of the pushback over the years has been, oh, if we do this, they're going to be up in arms, they're going to nuke us, right? Haha. All sorts of crazy, unjustifiable fears. And I say unjustifiable because when you actually go out and talk to these folks from these places, it turns out that they're really not opposed to Calexit. For the most part.
So I love us providing information to the public. Whenever I talk to people, and they're skeptical about this idea, it's because they have the wrong information. So we're still at a situation where most people in California think that America would never let us go. We had the recall debates, and there was literally people standing up in those debates going, California independence is silly, Americans love us, and they would never let us go. I mean, people still think that. They say that live in a debate, and they think they're telling the truth. And then when we talk to actual middle of Americans, we get a totally different statement. So cognitive disconnect between reality and what people here believe. And I wonder if people in California actually knew the truth that, yes, you could get the votes to go. I think that would change everything. I think it would catalyze the conversation. That's not saying you should go. It's just informing Californians that you could go if you wanted. They don't even know that yet. So I picture a future where Californians are informed of the truth, that they could get the votes, and then we have the discussion on Calexit again, because that's never happened. They convinced everybody you have to have a constitutional amendment. It's got to be this long, complex process involving 2/3 of everybody. Not true. That's up to question. We had Louis Marinelli argue a professor of law to agree with him that that is not true. We have that live on video. Yes, a sitting professor of law backed down and goes, well, yeah, I guess you have a point. We can't say that it has to be that. It could be just, state legislators, or it could be just 52% of Congress. We have that live on video. That was a week ago. And you add these things up, it's just not, people aren't aware of the facts. So we are providing an activism service here by educating the public of information that is valid, based upon real life sources, and is unavailable to the public at all. A little bit more activism, and then I'm going to call on Jason in a minute. I'll cover what Jason did recently. It was a great piece of activism, but I'm going to do a little intro and then we'll call on Jason. One more thing, need to show you guys. So part of the point of the Calexit Congress is to keep the discussion going that California could become independent. Well, we're doing the job that we said that the Calexit Congress ordered us to do. Louis Marinelli, a Republican who led an effort to get California to secede from the United States. So there is someone who's registered to run in the recall election who's talking about California leaving America. And this was covered in the top policy magazine in California, Cal Matters, recently. So top, most serious, well thought of think tank magazine that all the politicians and all the elected leaders in California read, covers that there's a candidate talking about California independence. Now, you don't have to like Louis. You don't have to think that Calexit is the best idea. But our goal here is to keep the conversation going, and this represents success. We are achieving the activist goals that we wanted, keeping the talk going, keeping the idea out in front of other people. So, very glad to be part of that. Recently, there was the Pacific Summit, which was, I believe, all the elected and unelected top officials in California came together to talk about how to build out of the California economy. At the end of the speech was a speech by Gavin Newsom, and we had Jason Wright go and watch the entire 6-hour-long program. He also watched the governor's speech. We will be providing you the link now. And we're told that this was a great, great speech by Gavin Newsom. So he came off looking really, really awesome in this speech. You can see the whole thing here. And I'll post the link right now. And we're doing that just to be fair. Just to be fair. Supposedly Gavin did great. We're not anti-Gavin. We're just pro-information. So there's the link there. I'm also going to post it in private chat. Gavin Newsom apparently crushed it on this speech. I'd encourage everybody to take a look at it. You don't have to endorse Gavin. You don't have to not endorse him. Just saying. Good speech. Worth taking a look at. So let me get to the notes. In this video, actually, let me pull up the video again. Sorry. And then we're going to call on Jason in a second. So I'm just going to play the video while I explain a few things. So about 6 minutes into the governor's news segment, at 5 hours and 36 minutes, he talks about California leading the American economy. It is the, quote, tent pole of America, or something to that effect. He gives growth figures saying that California is averaging about 3.5% GDP growth over the last 5 years. That's pretty good. 4% is considered the highest you can ever get. At 5:40, about 5 hours and 40 minutes in, he talks about state and local taxes. The Trump tax attack on that, on Californians, the fact that the income tax has not actually changed since 2012. The last time voters approved of a change under the last administration, which would be Schwarzenegger or Brown. He also points out how much is in surplus, nearly 80 billion, according to the governor, and that it does not include the 27 billion in federal relief. So the surplus really is, or should be, about 80 billion right now. Those are the key points from the governor's speech. We also want to say special thank you to Jim Wunderman and Rufus for allowing a Yes California member to go. And also, I will remind everybody, Jim Wunderman is the leader of the Bay Area Economic Council and did meet for an hour with Yes California to talk about our initiative to secede from America. That was not an endorsement, but we got a one-on-one hour meeting with Jim Wunderman, the same Jim Wunderman who put together this conference with Gavin Newsom, where the governor apparently did so well. I'm going to turn it over to Jason. Jason, what am I missing? What am I not getting? What did I skip? What was super awesome about Gavin Newsom at this meeting?
Yeah, so I just, I want to start by saying, reiterating what you said about fairness. Most people do agree that we are very fair and very neutral, right? If there was a fact, we state it, not because we like it, but because it's a fact. And we all need all of the pertinent information. It makes us all work a bit better together. So, in all fairness to Gavin Newsom, because I'm not really a huge supporter of him, right? I'll be honest about that. I am not the Gavin fan of the world. That being said, I was very, very impressed with his performance at this meeting. The body language, the speech, everything about him during this 30-minute segment was very much a leader who knows where he needs to take things, knows where he's going with things, and just clearly trying to spell it out, right? And my big thing, my big question, I stated this to you, Marcus, where has this Gavin been for the last year or so? Because the Gavin Newsom, the governor and commander-in-chief of California that I'm seeing here in this video is perceivably strong and centered, has a clarity of thought and, where he's going with things. Whereas my personal read of him over at least the last year has been one of, Gavin, why would you do that? Oh no, Gavin, why would you say that? Oh no, Gavin, don't do that, right? So this video is pretty much the opposite. And he, these numbers that Marcus just stated out there about, the budget is nearly $80 billion. 80, B as in boy, $billion. And he's very clear that that does not count the 20-something, of federal support money. Is the Rescue Act or something like that. Not including that, California's state budget is $80 billion in the green. Usually we do not get such a easy find for our numbers and figures, right? Usually we don't have the highest authority in our golden land giving us a very clear figure, very clear answer on, if if people tuned into the recall debates, they will have heard some discussion about California surplus. Is it real? Do we really have a surplus? Does this surplus include federal money, which would mean that it's not really a surplus? Well, he gave us the answers to all of that. And usually that would be something we would have to dig and dig and dig all through online just to try to find the answer. And here he is on video stating it very clearly. 80 billion nearly does not include the federal. Very clear. Now, again, back to where has this Gavin been over the last year? This is like the most clarity on something that I've heard from him in a while. When COVID numbers came out, I was right there alongside many other Calexit Congress members who took it a bit personally when our commander-in-chief said that he didn't feel that we would understand the information if given. Yeah, you know, I took a little bit of offense because I do understand all of that stuff. That's literally what we do, right? It's not just me, it's most of those of us who are partaking at this level. We partake at this level, so yeah, give us those numbers and figures, we can handle it. So here he is, and you know, it should be pointed out, he did receive a lot of very public blowback over that, and started to do the opposite move, started to actually give out the information, whether or not he thinks that people will understand it. So, you know, making our, I want to point out to folks, making our opinions, our points, our stances very public and known actually does have effect here in California. Whereas when Californians go and rally through the streets, you know, in the millions, when it's something to do with the federal government, all of a sudden we see kind of an opposite reaction. California, on California issues, we could actually see results. California on federal issues, not so much. And you might actually end up getting further taxation imposed, you know, a removal of safety net features that are meant to keep people alive and healthy and well, you know, stuff like that, which is exactly what happened when California rallied through the streets of LA, San Diego, San Francisco, and Sacramento, and Fresno, I believe, if I'm not mistaken on that one. Rallied around, hey, you know, we don't want a, you know, person like this with these sort of beliefs and ideals telling us here what we have to do and what we have to think. And, you know, it was President Donald Trump got elected, and boom, California out in the streets, signs up, you know, arm in arm, so to speak. And what we saw as a result was California being penalized big time. And some of those penalties Joe Biden is continuing now that he is the elected president. And so again, just to make this point clear, when Gavin Newsom said he didn't release certain figures because he didn't feel that we would understand, and Californians, we got together and got very public and made it known that, yes, we do understand. We would have understood if you had told us, and we find this very offensive that you would think such things of us, that you would think so lowly of us. And then he changed his tune and his approach. It wasn't a, okay, how do I get back at California for telling me I made the wrong move? No, it was a, okay, hey, California, I hear you loud and clear. You want the numbers? Fine, here they are. And he went back to, giving us numbers and figures and stuff. Which for a lot of people is very tedious. But for folks like myself who thrive on political analysis, that is our bread and butter. Not even, that's the water that we need. You can go more days without food than you can with water. I would say that that's our water, is the numbers and figures. We need to stay hydrated with it. And so,
well said.
This kind of furthers that point of like California on California issues for California things can actually affect California. Whereas California on federal issues with federal things and the United States federal government policies and stances and, varying ick that they might say or spread. Well, California, even when there are larger numbers of Californians, even when there's a more vast demographic display of Californians coming together saying the same thing, when it's a federal issue, California, more often than not, will be penalized, it seems. Because, we look at trends, and turns out usually when California makes a bit of a stink, California gets penalized in some way or another. Be it, people who buy California goods are now put onto certain lists where no one in the United States can trade with them or sell them any sort of goods, right? Maybe it's, oh, well, your economy hinges on having kind of this, welcome to immigrate policy. Okay, well, we're going to shut the borders down and keep everyone out and make sure that you don't have people to come in and, help be that linchpin in your economy. So yeah, California, we've got the ability, we can affect change, but it's here at home, not in the federal government, not the rest of the United States. I'd say the most change we might get from the rest of the United States is their support in our right to self-determination. In that, most of them don't seem to be too opposed to a Calexit scenario. Partly because we're very clear, it's very peaceful, very legal, must be 100% peaceful, 100% legal, must be both of them. And that says no civil war, no, hundreds of thousands or millions of people dead from shooting at each other. We don't want that. No one really wants that. No sane, reasonable person would want that. And I think that's pretty clear now to most of the rest of the US, to the point where they're saying, hey, you want to go? Go. You're the ones with the door and the doorknob and everything. So it's up to you. You want to go? Go. So really, folks, California, 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 and then again, where has our commander-in-chief been over this last year or so? Why did it take this,
Okay. We're going to stop at 11:50. So any other comments from anybody else or the public? We're stopping at 11:50 because there's a special debate at 12. I have to make sure to start streaming beforehand. So comments from anybody about anything? Okay. Jason, go ahead and finish up the comments, and we recognize it's the new regular things go on in the background. That's fine.
Yeah, no, there's a conversation, and I don't want it to be broadcast live.
Okay. All right. Well, does anybody want to say anything about anything at all? We have a few minutes before we wrap up. Okay, then I'm going to end the show. Thank you all for coming out. I hope you found the information about how our governor is still rising to the challenge, about how America is still falling apart, about how America is not being united, about how, yes, California is reaching out to conservatives in many different ways and making connections, about how conservatives are saying from the middle of America that they would allow us to go, and about how Joe Biden is still like Donald Trump in ways that are disgusting, and how the Biden administration still, even though it's a Democrat, and even with Pelosi, and even with California's vice president, we still don't get the services we want. So America still doesn't deliver for us. America does not share our values. That's evident. America is falling apart. And we are having conversations at Yes California to prepare ourselves to leave. Everything we predicted, everything we said is going on. Again, proven anew this week. We've been at this for months. Why are we still getting evidence backing up everything we're saying? And how come we were the first organization to predict these things months ago when nobody else would, and now they're saying the exact same thing we did? Questions for you to consider. And when you think about why this is the most important conversation that we need to have here in the California nation state. Thank you all for being here. Please check us out at our next one-on-one debate. I will have to post that link up in the WhatsApp for everyone to see. Or you can go to the Yes California YouTube channel where it will be broadcast live. Yes California YouTube channel. Thank you so much.